Michelle Lupton here for Picket Fence Studios, and I'm going to show you how I made these two cards. So the main image for these cards is made using new stencil called a winter scene, which you can see I've got stuck to a piece of cardstock already. And what I'm using over this stencil is a mixture of paper glaze and paper glitz. So I've used bits and pieces of each of those on different parts of the stencil. So I'm going to start with this green one, and with this one I'm starting with paper glaze in leaf green, which is a really beautiful vibrant green. Of course, green is the colour of Picket Fence Studios. You would notice in our logo it's always green. So there's always some beautiful green colours in our paper glazes. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to, on my craft mat here, I've got a non-stick craft mat, I'm just mixing together some of that same leaf green paper glaze with some paper glitz sparkle. Now, Paper Glitz Sparkle was the first paper glitz to be released by Picket Fence Studios. And the sparkle is just a sort of, it's a mixture between white and clear, really. It's hard to describe. It's just got so much mica in it. It is super duper shiny. So paper glaze is shiny to start with, but this paper glitz sparkle just takes that up a notch. It adds so much more shine to it. Now, you might have noticed that on this stencil, what I did was I used some little bits of post-it tape that I'd cut to be the same, or approximately the same shape as the sort of branches on that large tree, to sort of mask off the large tree to start with. Now, what I could have done is taken off the stencil at this point, let it dry, and then put the stencil back on to do the centre tree. But I'm impatient. So I just thought, I'll just see how I go with adding this paper glitz in the middle. Now, the paper glitz that I'm using on the middle tree is traditional Christmas green, which of course works perfectly with these trees. Now, I did an okay job. It's not perfect. You can see on the left-hand side there are a few little splodges that leaked underneath the stencil, but that's okay. I'm going to make sure my card design takes that into consideration. All right, so I'm making another panel here, and this time I'm making purple. So I'm starting with the paper glaze in Agapantha's purple. And here I'm, again, mixing the Agapantha's purple paper glaze with the paper glitz sparkle. Now, that will soften the colour a little bit, and it'll also add that extra shine. Now, at this point, I changed my mind about what I wanted to do, because I was originally going to put that mixed up bit on this left-hand tree, but I decided to put the undiluted new paper glitz purple prism on the left-hand side. So this is the new colour of paper glitz, purple prism. And then I decided to make the mixture that I already had. So I already had Agapantha's purple and paper glitz in it. I'm adding a little bit more paper glitz, and then I'm adding some paper glaze in Snowdrop white as well. So I've made it a lot paler by adding that Snowdrop white. Here I am adding even more of the paper glitz sparkle. Wanted to make sure it was super duper sparkly. But the adding the Snowdrop white, which is a very opaque white from the paper glaze range, I made it a lot paler. So I got a lot of bit of contrast happening between the trees. So yet again, I could have taken the stencil off, waited for those outer two trees to dry, put the stencil back on and masked it off properly, but impatient girl here decided she wanted to do it without doing that. I did an okay job, but it's not perfect, but that's okay. I cleaned up most of the bits that sort of overlapped where I didn't want it. And of course, when you do the big reveal of pulling off the stencil, it's just beautiful. The shine that you get from the paper Glaze is amazing. The shine that you get from the paper Glitz is next level, and the fact that you can mix them together to get a whole new look is just, oh, amazing. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how I put together the green card, because the way that I did it for the green card is very, very similar to the way that I did it with the purple card. There's one slight difference, which is the arrangement. So one of them is a portrait and one of them is a landscape card, but mostly the same. Now, another difference is I actually use this green card as my card base for the green card. For the purple one, I used a white card base and just swiped some ink on the top and the bottom of it. So what I'm using here is the Stencil, which is the slimline cut flower stencil, which is new in August. And I'm just using my life-changing blender brush to blend over the top. Now, I have a blender brush specifically for green, but last time I used it with sort of an aqua green, and I wanted to use Twisted Citron here, which is much more lime green, and it wasn't clean. So I decided to go for a bit of a blotchy look. So I actually intentionally added some peacock feathers as well as the Twisted Citron. Now I'm taking a little bottle that I have mixed some Paper Glitz Sparkle with water, and I'm just going to flick that over this stencil so that the coloured areas will have little splashes of water and splashes of really intense shine from that Paper Glitz Sparkle. Okay, so that's done. So I've got my card panel here. I'm just going to quickly zap it with my heat tool to make sure all those little splashes are perfectly dry before I move on to the next step. So I decided to cut that panel down so I had a little bit of the card base showing on the left and the right. So just using my paper trimmer here to make sure I slice that down nice and neat. I'm going to adhere that to my card base so that there is a little border on the left and the right showing of that green card base. Trying to get it straight. Obviously not doing a very good job. But I get there eventually. Eventually. All right, now it's pretty much straight. Okay, now I decided to use this word topper die, the Merry Christmas word topper die, on top of this. So I cut it out 3 times, and then I'm going to adhere them together to get a nice thick layer, so that this sentiment has a little bit of sort of oomph to it. So it's a little bit more sturdy and can stand up by itself. So you need to make sure that you do have glue on the letters, but try and use as little as you possibly can on the letters because it will splodge out the sides. Okay, I'm just going to use the same liquid glue on the back of these trees. You can see the gorgeous shine from the paper glaze and the sparkle from the paper glitz there. I'm just going to cut off the edge. So that edge where I did have a little bit of an oopsie of some of the paper glaze sneaking underneath the stencil, I've just sliced that off so it's not going to be on the finished card. All right, so I'm going to adhere that die cut sentiment, and then to finish it off, I decided to take some sequins. So on the green card, I use a sequin mix called Fireplace Stockings, and I actually just took some little clay pieces from that sequin mix, and you'll see me doing that now. There's a sequin mix for Fireplace Stockings. For the purple card, I actually used the sequin mix called 1950s Christmas, which is just so much fun because it's all pink and white and so sparkly. So I loved adding those sequins onto the purple card. Once those sequins or little clay pieces are added on, that's my card finished. So as I said, the purple card was assembled pretty much the same way as this green one. So I hope you enjoyed watching me put this card together. You can see the gorgeous shine both in the background and on those trees. And here are the finished cards. So thanks very much for watching. Bye.